Lori. So my name is Ashley Steiner. I'll be the moderator today. I'm a Dynamics CRM admin with Flex Technology Group. I've been working with Dynamics, oh gosh, it's almost 11 years now. I feel like I've seen the tool change a lot, and probably the favorite thing that I do with my job is actually work with end users. So really excited to share in the conversation today and hear from this excellent panel. So let's go ahead and have our panelists introduce themselves. And I'm just going to go from left to right on my screen and start with Dan.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Pleasure to be here today. Name is Dan Madden. I work with a company called Ascensus. I am the program manager there, and have been working with various CRM technologies since all the way back from 2005, but certainly a focus on Dynamics 365. So again, excited to be here. A very important topic and a great panel from what I could see here. So awesome for the opportunity, and thank you for having me join.
Awesome, thanks Dan. And Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer Cotting. We're actually a CMC. CMC Group is the company. We're a user of CRM. First put CRM in just 2015. We have 150 users or so on the platform at this point, and their usage is growing, and they're asking more and more of the IT team every day to make it better for them. So excited to share some of that knowledge.
Great. And Heidi.
Hi, I'm Heidi Newhauser. I work for Reenhanced. I am both a user of Dynamics 365 Online and a partner. So I get to see a lot of different use cases of CRM, and I work with organizations of all sizes and specifically hone in on user adoption and how to train your users properly.
Fantastic. Really excited to hear from all of you today. So let's go ahead and just start in with your best practices. You know, what have you learned over the years working with your end users? And we'll go the same that we started. So Dan, let's hear from you first.
Yeah, a great question. Very important one for everyone out there working with these technologies, right? Because it's just like a calculator, right? It's as good as the user behind it. So one of the biggest points that I would stress, and what I think is a unique opportunity for a lot of us, is to really dig into the job shadowing piece. For me, a really important part of this story is that I did not know CRM when it landed on my lap. I was a business side user, more in a sales support capacity, who knew a lot about our business, working with requests for proposals, things like that. When ultimately the CRM project landed in my lap, a lot of people, were happy with it being a glorified Rolodex and primarily a pipeline forecasting tool when I first started in my CRM career. And having that opportunity was eye-opening to me. People like Heidi got me into this user group, got me into this product, and it was really almost like a lob pitch, right? Microsoft does great as far as ongoing additional enhancements through the product roadmap. And when you have a solid amount of business knowledge that ultimately Microsoft and a lot of other CRM technologies are helping to solve via technology enhancements through their platform, it really put me in a unique spot to succeed, our user base and our company as well. So, that's one of the top things that I always stress when I do talk about user adoption best practices is, if the CRM system is not solving a need, good luck, right? It's going to be fought tooth and nail. So, if you can add value in the form of enhancing their workflows, their work process, etc., it's really not a question of adoption. It's a question of how are you going to be able to support a growing system and a growing user base.
Fantastic. And Jennifer.
So my top tip is to make sure you empower the users. It's not an IT system. It is a system for the teams of which it serves, whoever that is within your organization. I like to go to the users and, they ask for something and say, okay, we're going to have to investigate maybe how to do it. But the fact that we're going to do something to make their life better and easier and get whatever automation or whatever they're asking for is something they need to know that we're going to do. So it is not an IT project, and it's not a sales project. It's kind of a collaborative effort. But the fact that we take our users and empower them to look at the technology as an instrument of change and something to help them make their lives easier, make their lives better, and to have them be an active part of the conversation is the best way to get user adoption. So if they feel they own it, they feel they're a part of it, it is so much easier for them to empower themselves to make adoption an issue rather than somebody trying to push it from the top down to them, because that doesn't work. They have to believe in the technology and the benefits that they receive. So that's my tip, is make sure you empower the users and to allow it to be for them. And as IT, we just kind of facilitate that need.
Okay, awesome. And Heidi?
Jennifer, you stole mine.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Create a CRM user group. Absolutely number one. Just something to add on to that, I would strongly recommend creating that group with a variety of skill levels. So it's really easy to want to put all of your power users and your super users in the group. But I think it's really important to get some of the people that are anti-CRM or don't want to adopt, because you really want to understand that. So I won't use that because Jennifer already said it. But I will add on, one of the things you can look for to help user adoption is to find what your users are doing manually. And one of the easiest ways to do that is look for what are they putting in an Excel spreadsheet. Because I found a lot of organizations will have users exporting data from CRM, putting it into Excel and doing something with it. So that could be like managing their own pipeline. And maybe you just need to teach them how to manage that in CRM and save time to make them a cool dashboard that they love. Or more often than that, it's I have to create this report for my supervisor. So I have to take out my pipeline and put it in a certain format and then send it to my supervisor. So that's a really unique opportunity where you can leverage the technology that's already in CRM out of the box and maybe automate a lot of the stuff. And then you're giving them like hours back in their week, which users love.
Fantastic. I have a couple of questions. Jennifer, and I mean, I guess this could be for anybody, but Jennifer, something that you had said is, empower the user and get them involved in the process. I would think that a lot of the end users tend to be salespeople. How do you get them to take the time to be involved in the process? Because salespeople are supposed to sell and they're the ones making the revenue for the company. How do you get them to take the time away from that to be involved?
Yeah, it actually kind of goes back to what Dan says. You do the job shadowing. So you sit, take the time to sit with them to make you and them automatically a team. Something you're working at together. They're not telling you what to do. You're not telling them what to do. It's a collaborative effort. So they take the time because you ask them to, again, and you express in those words, it is a tool. I want to make it better for you. Tell me what frustrations you're experiencing. What things take all the time. And because again, it is all about the time and how to make that, them be the revenue producing agents they need to be. They can only do that if they're given a tool that they can be successful in. So I have to enter this data 3 times. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Let me write a workflow so you don't have to do that 3 times, or whatever problem they're experiencing. If you sit down one-on-one with them, you can usually uncover their specific thing, because every salesperson is going to be different. They're not going to mind entering it here, but this person can't stand that, and this person wants to see it the form in this way, and that person doesn't really care, and whatever it is. But you can usually come to some sort of consensus if you sit down one-on-one with them. And then as people start to see the changes you're making, then they start to almost naturally want you then to come sit with them, because you did these really cool things for Jane, and why don't I have those yet? Well, I just haven't gotten to you yet. And so they actually start to make appointments and try to get on your calendar to see if you can make it better for them. So empower them, sit with them.
Awesome. So when you're building your power user team, how involved is the executive team in that? Is it just the end users?
That's a really good question. Yeah,
Go ahead,
Dan. No, you made your teams. I like hearing your story.
Perfect. So I'll jump in here first, I guess. For ours, the power users, it's really certainly we work with our executives to help get that sponsorship, right? Because there's a certain amount of time that these people have to invest. For us, it's not much. It's an hour, I think, bi-weekly. We have a large SME, subject matter expert call, that really is representative across our entire enterprise, and in a variety of roles, sales, service, etc. We do have over 1,000 users within our platform. So the SME team, even at about 35, 40 people, isn't that big, but I would say that there's at least 2 people represented across each business. And to Jennifer's point, that empowerment goes a very long way, because those are almost our champions, our change agents, if you will, who can really help to sell the value of exploring technology to work smarter, not harder. One of the things that we've done in these sessions as early as last week in our last call was I actually did a demo of the UG to all of the SME members, and most of them weren't yet signed up. Fast forward another week, I was actually on a call with Heidi in the Philadelphia chapter, and I noticed 2 of our SMEs were actually on the call. So it's things like that that will really help to organically drive growth and adoption within their own mindsets. They'll take that back to the business, and then it becomes a very good life cycle where now everyone's a part of it, and it's not just you, the CRM team, driving it. It's more of the business getting the features and functionalities that make sense for them, and then ultimately working with the CRM team to get those prioritized.
Heidi, did you want to say anything else in addition?
Yes, I just kind of to echo what Dan said, I would not recommend management being a part of your CRM user group team. I mean, imagine if you have a focus group and you invite their boss to the focus group. Is the language they're giving you accurate? It's probably going to be filtered. So while management's important, I'm assuming most people here are system administrators. So you as a system administrator are tasked with a very fun little project here of managing what your users are looking for, but satisfying management requirements, which is a fun dance to do. But I would not put them in part of your CRM user group.
Okay.
Sorry, management.
How involved then is management in your user adoption tracking then? I mean, do you use them to get your salespeople involved in actually using it?
Yeah.
So, yes, absolutely. I want to speak to that a little bit because actually we're re-implementing the pipeline for like the 4th time. Different managers have different expectations, right? So the managers are very important in managing the expectation of how much CRM will be used and those kind of things, and they manage that through their actions. So not requesting those reports that Heidi talked about, like I need to download my pipeline and give it to my boss. No, your boss needs to go to CRM and look at it. So I mean that your management team sets the standard by their practices. So if they request something out of CRM, the immediate thing your users think is my managers aren't using it, why would I? So it's the same thing. So managers are critically important in fostering user adoption by their personal actions.
Just to harp in there then, Ashley, if you don't mind, one of the items mentioned earlier was a top-down versus bottom-up push. I've been on projects that have been on both sides. I would certainly agree that a bottom-up push works better than the top-down. But if, let's say, anyone's on the call who's struggling with the top-down push and they're kind of in the middle, I was at a certain point of my career, and how I ultimately helped bridge that gap was sales saw the value and wanted to use it, but to some of the points here, management didn't want to pull the reports, right? So why would I enter it in a database when a manager goes out of left field and asks me to do a weekly call report through Outlook or something, or to Heidi's point, Excel? So when you're presented with those issues, what I would recommend is going right to the top, right? That day I presented myself at the president's desk and ultimately said, we have an issue, right? I want to get you accurate pipeline forecasting as fast as I can. He's like, what's your name again? And move your desk right here because that's the best thing I've heard all week. Sure enough, a quick desk move, a new role, and ultimately the president then took it on him to say, I'll get my managers in line. You continue to do what you're doing. That was the lights on moment for the enterprise. And I would challenge a lot of you out there who have that same sort of predicament. Don't be afraid going to the top. The second project I got right after that was me showing up at his desk again, asking for his sales goals. He's like, why do you want to know my sales goals? Well, I want to put them into CRM for real-time tracking for one, your management staff, but also the sellers. And again, it was another light bulb moment, and it was like, all right, now we're rocking and rolling. And that was a good way to turn a top-down push that was ultimately being fought a little bit, by that, let's say, executive management level of a sales team that was quickly being able to bridge by engaging the executive manager there who said, I can focus on normalizing it. That's not your job and shouldn't be your pain point. And that really helped us save a lot of challenges through CRM by pulling users outside of the system, our number one fear.
Yeah, can I add something to that too?
Yes, please, Heidi.
So I like to talk a lot at Summit and focus on things about out-of-the-box configuration tools that help enhance user adoption. So exactly what Dan said, there's a really cool tool that you guys can use. It's called a model-driven app, and you can make one for management, and you can streamline that app so all they see is the dashboard, the report, whatever they need. And then you can have email notifications, because I know management likes that. And if you're not aware, you can configure your email notifications to default you into a specific model-driven app, which is a really cool little tip you can do. And it's all out-of-the-box configuration, which is super cool. Ashley, we're seeing forms. Is that you screen sharing?
Nope, that's Lori.
Okay, Lori.
So
cool.
Just let her know. So the question that I was going to ask is, and I lost my train of thought because I saw Lori's screen and had a panic attack. So I was going to ask a question about, I was just going to say, basically, don't be afraid to like raise your voice if you see something wrong. I think that that's something that like people that are in charge of CRM, they're always a little hesitant, because I think that CRM tends to get a little bit of a bad rap because sales reps tend to not want to use it or something. But if you see something that people are having a pain point with, don't be afraid to raise your hand and say, hey, like I could make this better, or I could make it less painful. And I think that that's always going to, like in Dan's case, like I think it's always going to make somebody happy and tend to the people at the top. So I wanted to ask more questions about involving the salespeople in the process. So Dan, you commented on this. You know, so when you get salespeople involved in the process, like how does that that process look? So you get them involved, and then they provide their input on how the system looks, and then you roll that out to them. Is that an ongoing thing? And then how do they provide their feedback to you?
Yeah, no, great question. We're an agile development shop at Ascensus, so we have that iterative approach, which really helps versus traditional waterfall methods, where sometimes you're, delivered the large requirements up front, things change sort of around you, you roll out, and then expectations aren't hit. So agile really helps protect one, the team, two, the product, and three, the user base on how we're ultimately shipping out enhancements and value within CRM. And what's nice is for us, we have a couple large focus areas. We certainly have a very large user base, but we do have defined focus areas as a team to help target our focus. As a large development team, 1,000 users, you still can't give everyone enough time in the day. So we have those focus areas to help. And in return, what we ask, Ashley, is that same focus is applied back from the business to our team. Meaning, if we're reaching out for meetings to, discuss further requirements, discovery, et cetera, they're willing and able participants at that meeting and at that table to help keep those conversations going. Because as we all know, the roadmap's not going to end, right? So our ongoing discussions with the business, as soon as they end, that's where system disconnect begins to happen and you lose adoption.
And this question is for everybody. I think that people always want to know, well, how do you measure user adoption? How do you know that people are using the system? So you get to the end of that, this cycle, you get to the end of, doing this release. How do you know people are actually using it? Fun question.
It's an easy one.
Okay.
So for a lot of our sellers, they don't get paid unless they forecast their opportunities through CRM. If you're having a backdoor to that process, good luck in having CRM be used widely beyond maybe a glorified Rolodex, right? So I know a lot of firms can't do that, but for us in financial services, it's rather a norm nowadays just to have accurate and up-to-date pipeline forecast projections. So for us, that's certainly helped. But yeah, love to hear how the other callers look at this. We also look at ongoing metrics and review those on a quarterly basis with individual business leadership teams, which certainly help as well. Unique logins, things like that. Mobile usage, some of the add-on product usage that we have in our database gives great analytics. But again, one of the key things for us is, and CRM in general, is pipeline forecasting. And that's ultimately a big bridge to commission in my world today.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an answer that fits everybody, but the companies that we work with who are really successful in it have done what Dan has done, right? Like you You make CRM a part of the process where if you don't put your data in here, you can't get what you need. So one of our big success stories on user adoption has been a company who has integrated our quote process, which used to be a manual creation of quotes that would go out to customers. Now the only quotes that they can send out to customers are the ones that are generated from CRM, and all of a sudden everybody's using the system. So if you can tie something that leads to compensation or leads to metrics that are related to their compensation or even a bonus structure, that would really be key. And back to like what Jennifer and Dan were both saying earlier, all of that comes from leadership buy-in, and none of that's going to work if you don't have that from the start.
Ours is, again, that leadership buy-in, looking at CRM to find what their users have done in the system and whatever that is, whether that's recording activities, creating cases, whatever the action they're supposed to be doing, and the number of opportunities they have done that in the last month or quarter or whatever time they're reviewing. So our reports are very much show by user what actions have been taken. So we know which users are actively using the tool, and it comes down to, that's part of their work improvement projects all the time. So I say that you only entered 5. You really only have 5 opportunities of sales this month. That's a problem. Where are the rest? Oh, they're on the Excel sheet. Well, that's not existing then. So it's just, it's that thing, using the data that's available and showing it in an analytical way for all users to see. We do we don't hide anything. So it's all the users see all the users' statuses.
Yeah, we do something a little unique too. I think that Heidi kind of hit the nail on the head there when you said that every company is different. You got to find those measurements that are going to be unique to your company, because we do things more on like the account ownership. Obviously, we do create opportunities, but because we're a nationwide company and we have competing companies internally, because we're kind of like a holding company for several companies, if you don't put your account in and your account notes in, you can't really show that you are actually ever reaching out to that account. So if another sales rep comes in and can prove that they've been reaching out to that company, you could potentially lose that account.
Ooh,
so
that's a good one.
Yeah, so that's a really big deal. So that's how we track user adoption. Lori, just wanted to check in to see if we have any questions.
I don't see any at this time, Ashley. No hands raised either, but yes, if anybody would like to ask a question, please go ahead. Raise your hand and we can unmute your line.
Okay, perfect. So we have about 5 minutes left. What are your kind of lasting thoughts on user adoption? What are some things what are the last things that you want to leave with the group? Or just horror stories, things that you would never do again. I think that those are always good too. Anyone want to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
So I see a lot of people think of user adoption in terms of go live. So we've got the users involved, we're doing everything right, we've gone live, and then you just kind of let it live and die on its own. User adoption is an ongoing thing. So if you're looking at it from like the big bang perspective of we're live, we're good, now we're all good, everyone's using the system, I think that's most likely setting up for user adoption failure in the future. So keep that user group active. It's not something you should just use at go lives or at big projects. Anytime you're going to change something or enhance the product in some way, that's a great group to test things out and get feedback. So get them in your sandbox, let them test it, get your feedback, and just make sure that it's an ongoing process, not just a one-time thing.
I think ongoing training or access to materials is a great, keeping them engaged.
I like to just say we have clear expectations of what your roles are, manager roles, user roles, department roles, whatever that is, just setting a clear expectation of the system is a tool, it is an ongoing tool, it's never done. It's great job security. So we can always, we will continue to make changes all the time. So setting the expectation that it's not done, that your view is always valued, that we'll continue to make things better, that we all know the business is going to change, so we'll continue to evolve the system to match the business changes. Just setting that as it's an always open line of communications, I think helps continue the efforts, as Heidi alluded to. It's not done at go live time.
Agreed. Great point, Jennifer. Yeah, for me, I would say start small, but think big. right? Know what's tangible for a user base to actually absorb, knowing they have day jobs as well. You know, I've certainly inherited CRMs. I've relaunched CRMs that I've inherited, and you know, it's definitely sometimes the right time to do something like that when you realize that the core system that you're using really wasn't set up for their success. Sometimes it is better just to relaunch, start small, and think big. But as a lot of the callers said today, I mean, it's really that transparency as well, right? If you are doing a relaunch or you're just driving forward in your product roadmap, make sure that's socialized. Keep excitement high, keep them wanting to know more. And when you do that, I have a strong feeling that you will not struggle with user adoption.
Absolutely. I think if I had anything to share, I would say, you know, make sure that as an admin, you're available to answer questions for people. You know, making sure that you're not just putting people into a corner saying that like their questions don't matter. You know, you want to make sure that you're keeping that communication open and available for them, because that's the biggest way to drive adoption, is making sure that their voice is heard. So.
Great.
Awesome. Well, if there are no questions from the group, I will pass it back to Lori. Thank you to the panel for all of your great commentary today. It was great to chat with you.
Thank you.
All right, fabulous. Thanks so much for moderating, Ashley, today. And yes, panelists, for being here. So to all, these panels do exist every other week. So we'll take next week off just because I'm gone on vacation. Just kidding. We'll be back for the 19th though, and we're going to talk about getting sales users ready to use this system. So another great topic. So thanks for being here today, all. I appreciate you greatly. We'll go ahead and get our recording posted to our content library here within the next couple hours and send you the direct link to that. Have a great day. As we close down, you'll receive a brief survey. Appreciate you giving your feedback. Any comments that you have there, let's share with the group here. Want to make these the best possible use of time that they can be. So let us know. All right, have a great day. Thanks for being here, all.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.